Michael Robinson played in the NFL for nearly a decade, a Niner and a Seahawk, a Pro Bowler, Big Ten co-offensive player of the year. Always an interesting take, NFL Network analyst. Well, you're watching all this card banging into each other. And let me ask you this. How do you think, because I've talked to 3 Packer players since the Super Bowl, and the 2 offensive guys say, we got no idea what Aaron's doing. We got no idea. So Aaron tends to keep people kind of in the dark a little bit. If you were a Packer player today, what are you thinking?
If I'm a current Packer player?
Yeah, and you're going to be coming back. You're not Alan Lazard going to the Jets. You're a current Packer player. What's your takeaway now? Relief?
Well, it has to be. I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Right.
It's gone. And I think one of the bigger stories that not a lot of people are talking about is just the willingness of Green Bay to just say, go ahead on, man. Go ahead, leave. Get out. I think they're tired of being, especially over the last few years, of always having to answer these questions. And I said a few years ago on our network, at NFL Network, like, what does Aaron want, really? He is the franchise guy. They come to him sometimes with franchise moves. Yeah, they have to move on from older players, but every team in the National Football League does that. And to me, I think it's criminal that Aaron Rodgers and myself, we have the same amount of Super Bowls. For him to be that good, I mean, honestly, for him to be that good and supposed to be a force multiplier and to be compared with the guys and the greats like the Tom Brady's, the Joe Montanas, because let's be honest, that's what we're talking about Aaron Rodgers up against. We're not talking about him up against just the regular old average quarterback that runs through the National Football League. We're talking about greatness. He said it. He's even talked about how long he's been great in the National Football League. So you have to compare him to the other greats in one championship, 15, 16 years? That's not good in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I look at it from the Packers standpoint, and they're like, okay, you ask us to sign guys we don't really want to, Randall Cobb. You don't really commit, and now we're not getting a payoff at the end of the year. Because LeBron James will ask for stuff, Brady will ask for stuff, but I get the payoff. Peyton Manning will ask for stuff. I don't care if you're a soccer star. They ask for stuff. I'm willing to give I'm as Jimmy Johnson said, I treat Troy Aikman one way and the rest of the roster the other.
Yep.
But you're not getting the big payoff. I think if, in fairness to Green Bay, they have compromised a lot of what they would do normally, and they feel like in the last couple years, we're not getting the payoff in the weaker NFC. We can get this with Jordan Love.
Agreed.
And a commitment.
Agreed. I mean, the Packers are probably saying the same thing I've been saying. One championship out of all of this. And we still have to deal with the questions at the end of every season. We still have to deal with the issues of if we're signing his homeboys back or not. And look, I know people who follow me, I've been critical of Aaron Rodgers over the last few years because he's just too good to have one championship, in my opinion. And for him to hold both of these organizations hostage like this, to me, it's a little bit unfair. But to his point, when he does speak, it's golden. I love it.
Yeah. No.
It's real, though.
You're a Jets player this morning, right now. What are you thinking with Aaron coming to your franchise potentially, mostly potentially?
I'm excited. I really am. We have a legit guy who we know can play games and win games off of his arm, which not a lot of organizations can say that.
Best guy since Namath in the organization.
But I have questions. I have questions for Joe Douglas, and I love Joe Douglas. I think he's a great talent evaluator. I got questions for Robert Saleh. First of all, is this guy going to be here in the offseason? Is this an all-for-1-year type of a deal? Because if I'm a guy who has a longer contract and I'm on the Jets right now, what is that saying past this year? And, and we had this conversation a few days ago on our network, when did we get into this mold of just going all in on one season? And I get that it happened with the Rams. It's all good. But look at what the Rams have to do in the years following that. Look at what it does to your organization. And to me, I think the decision makers in every organization have a responsibility to make sure the team is good, not just 1 year, but for the long term. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions to guarantee that.
So the Packers are going to get some picks for Aaron. My guess is at some point they're going to draft a quarterback this year because Jordan's been in the building so long. They're not going to give him 2 years of starting. They're going to say by Thanksgiving, guys in the room are going to be going, Up, down, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've been in we got a lot of film.
I will say this, though, Colin. I went to the Combine a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a lot of buzz at the Combine. Talked to some Packers guys, talked to Aaron Jones. We did a broadcast together. And I asked Aaron on camera and off camera, where it's just us just shooting around, just kicking it. I'm like, bro, is the kid ready? He took his glasses down. He said, Mike Robb, the kid is ready. So I have to believe the guys that see him every single day in his locker room.
I talked to him at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He said, I think he's ready to go.
Now, again, he sees him every day. Also, Aaron Jones is a leader in that locker room, and I think Aaron Jones is even tired of talking about the Aaron Rodgers question after every single season.
Yeah, I think guys are. I get it. Aaron's a different cat. Did you ever, 4 years Niners, 4 years Seahawks, people have compared, and I've said before, Russell Wilson and Aaron are dissimilar. One's very religious conviction. One tends to be a bit more agnostic and spiritual. But they are similar in that they're not necessarily a Brady or a Peyton Manning, go out for beers, jump on my back, I'm taking you over the hill together. They're both different dudes. And this is not a knock on Russell. But you were there for Russell.
Yeah.
Russell gives off a vibe that apparently a lot of Seahawks didn't like. Aaron gives off a vibe that many people don't like. When a quarterback's like that, not a classic unifier, just not. That's just he's not going to go out and hang out with you. Is it different? Is it harder? What's it like? Because you played with Russ.
It is different. And again, what I'm going to say is not necessarily directed specifically at Russell. But I will say the quarterback position, it's part public relations, man. You have to be able to get along with every single group and group of people in the locker room. And when you do have quarterbacks who aren't the unifiers, you can have some issues. So you got to play well. And when I think about Russell Wilson, to me that was the issue last year. He didn't play well, so whatever his relationships and whatever the issues that are going on in the locker room, they don't get solved. And I think that's Sean Payton's biggest challenge with handling Russell Wilson this year. Russell can still throw the football. I do think he needs to take off a little bit more. He can still run.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, last year he decided not to take off.
We couldn't
figure it out, right? I do think he can take off more. But at the end of the day, Sean Payton needs to figure out how Russell can affect the relationships in the locker room. And that's just from what I hear about what's going on in that locker room. And I think if he can do that, I think the Denver Broncos will be fine.
So as a former player, do you have sympathy for Lamar Jackson's inability to get a deal done? Or are you hire an agent? Can't hire your mom. Where do you land on that? Because I've said before, he wins 75% of his starts in the AFC. I'm not letting him go. I'm also not going to guarantee all of it. I'm not going to let the Cleveland Browns dictate terms in the NFL. You're desperate. We're not. Baltimore's a real organization. Like a Seattle or a San Francisco, they're not desperate. Vikings were with Kirk Cousins. They got no rings. Cleveland is always desperate. So I'm not going to let anybody dictate terms for me, but I'm not letting him go. Do you have sympathy for him, though, or are you more critical in terms of you don't have an agent? You got to have an agent when you're a superstar athlete, talk show host, politician. You got to have an agent.
Especially when you're at the level Lamar is, the elite of the elite. Now, I'm not one of those guys that just says everybody has to have an agent and all those things, because I've seen guys negotiate their deals and they've gotten the money that they've wanted.
Some of it's slotted.
Yes, and some of it's slotted. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with these type of numbers, these type of quarterback numbers, I do think you need to have somebody skilled at the art of negotiation. Now, I do think there's a happy median in this. And what I don't know, and I don't know if anybody really knows but Lamar and his camp, what exactly he wants. I know it's always referred to the Deshaun Watson contract, $233 million. Give me a dollar over that, whatever you want to call it. But to me, I mean, Deshaun Watson's $46 million per year. To me, the happy median is you do the years like he's a running back, 3 years. But the money's like he's a quarterback.
Okay.
3 years, $150 million. Guarantee the whole thing. Right? And in 2 years, you revisit this whole thing all over again, and then you give Lamar a chance to be with a real passing game coordinator.
Now, it's interesting. The Cowboys are going to move off Ezekiel Elliott. Not all positions have the same trajectory. The Chargers probably not going to re-sign Austin Eckler. Love him, had him on the show, but he's a running back. Tony Pollard got a franchise. Saquon Barkley. It is funny in your world because you did a lot of stuff.
Did a lot of stuff, man. I blocked, tackle, all that. Special teams.
When players play certain more physical positions, Deebo Samuel said, "Bro, if I'm taking these hits, then I get a longer deal." How does that play among pro athletes? Running backs in the locker room know they're never going to be paid like a receiver. They take the beating. They've got to block more. Do you think there's a resentment by Zeke, Saquon, Eckler? Did you ever have a little resentment like, bro, I'm picking up the blitz?
Yeah, I mean, you get a little pissed off, just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I play fullback. You can count on probably one-handed teams that even carry fullbacks right now. And I've been a proponent of saying I think the running back position needs its own CBA. I think they need to collectively bargain it different for that position. Again, no contract should be more than 3 years. They should always have a chance to come back to the table. And, will there be that first overall running back pick ever again just because of the nature of the position? I don't know. I still think that we have generational backs coming up through our amateur ranks through the NCAA. But at the end of the day, if we can get a separate kind of working device for the running backs, because, again, when we get the ball 7 yards behind the field, Colin, all 11 defenders are assaulting the line of scrimmage. That's the only position like that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.